Good morning, early game crew. Rise and shine. It's our last Watch the Tape Tuesday of the year. I'm Elijah Campbell. He's Preston Thorne. She's Jen Jensen. We are reviewing the 28-14 season-ending loss for South Carolina against Clemson. But take two, right? We reacted yesterday. We gave our thoughts on the loss and what it said about the Gamecocks 2025 season and the disappointment that it was. But we went back and watched it yesterday to see if there were a few things that maybe we just might have missed, or maybe a couple things that we doubled down on. And Preston, especially when it comes to the line of scrimmage, I know you had plenty of thoughts on how this game went down. And when you brought it to my attention and I ended up watching it, it stood out like a sore thumb.
It was worse than you think, worse than you thought, worse than the first. We definitely got camouflaged by some of the big plays that we had on offense. You knew that we weren't able to move the ball. You knew that we weren't very consistent on offense. But I'm not sure if anybody, unless you went back and watched it, and I'm not sure if you should have, unless you're a glutton for punishment or you have a job to do like us.
Yes,
those are the only two reasons. I wouldn't advise it for anybody. It was worse than maybe it had been all year. And that's part. Let me cover all my bases. Yes, they were playing a first-rounder, another first-rounder, possibly 3 NFL dudes. Yes, I get that. But they play good dudes all the time. That offensive line performance was absolutely horrible. And the numbers will back it up here when we go over the grades.
Yep.
Our eyes saw it, and the score saw it. So by any test, the offensive line did not improve. So I guess I'm going on a diatribe here because we already tried to fire the offensive line coach. We brought in a new offensive line coach, and the bar was, oh, well, we didn't have any procedure penalties. Great.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, the play happened. And actually, that's not even true on Saturday.
And that's not even true.
There were 4, combined for both teams, 4 penalties. Now, Clemson had 3 of them. South Carolina had 1, of more than 4 players being off the line of scrimmage. That's day one stuff.
Yeah, and Clemson was obviously trying to cheat. The old tackle was trying to cheat. He was trying to get a little advantage. He had 2 specifically, the left tackle that he had. That being said, offensive line needs to be – they need to tear that down.
Yeah.
That needs to tear that down. The previous coach did not do a good job. The current coach was not doing a good job. Offensive line was atrocious. The numbers back it up. My eyes back it up.
That's really where, if we want to talk about what kept South Carolina from being able to engineer a lot of drives, like, it's that. After watching the game, that was my biggest thing was it's the line, right? Now, you got a couple plays where you're able to hold up long enough, but even then on some of those throws that Lenora Sellers made, he was either getting hit as he threw or had a hand in his face and just made a really good throw. And for the season Lenoris has had, where I think we can all agree he regressed, still, when it came to passing the ball under pressure, when he got rid of the ball, good things happened. But he was under pressure way, way too much. And there's one stat here at 6:30 in Old Man versus Analytics that is going to blow your mind in terms of what we thought Clemson would do defensively and what they didn't have to do at all in that game.
That one clip I saw you was a simple, I think I know where you're going with this. It was a 4-man rush.
Yeah.
Several times that you saw them getting pressure where it looks there's 10 of them. It wasn't. It was only 4.
They're just there so fast.
It was only 4 against 5, sometimes 6, Elijah, because oftentimes we were keeping the tight end, and he wasn't doing much in that job either. So it was 4 against 6 often, and they were still able to get a lot of pressure. And so that was the thing that was most disappointing to me, is that they're just not good.
No.
And that is an issue moving forward. And that is something that needs to be addressed, something that needs to be handled, and something that needs to be talked about, because the previous offensive line coach, he obviously didn't do a great job, but the new offensive line coach, Sean Elliott, he's had him for a long time, and we did not see any improvement. We did not see them get better. We saw the same product rolled out there.
You remember last week when I brought up kind of the hypothetical, if I made you have to pick a game between the Gamecocks of August 31st and the Gamecocks of, late November, who you think would win? It'd be really hard, right? Well, on the offensive line, I don't know if you remember the Virginia Tech pressure. They did a couple stunts with Ben Bell and some of their interior defensive linemen, and that's what forced a lot of the pressure on Lenora Sellers. What did we see that Clemson did? It's not like they're blitzing a lot. all they did was like just little stunts. Peter Woods and Will Helt or whoever it was on the edge, or TJ Parker, doing a little stunt. The one specific play that you pointed out that you showed me, which was I believe in the second quarter, just an easy, simple stunt, and Carolina couldn't pick it up.
Yeah, and this is like day one type of things.
We saw the same thing in game 1 that we saw in game 12.
Exactly. Game 1 to game 12, there was no improvement. I'd argue that maybe, I mean, if you add the experience onto it, I'd say the offensive line got worse over the year, which they started off bad.
Yeah. Started off as the reason you're losing games. And the fact that it was even mentioned as a silver lining that they didn't have any procedural penalties against Oklahoma, it's like, okay, great. Well, you still couldn't keep a clean pocket. Yes, you played Oklahoma's defense, but you couldn't keep a clean pocket, right? The bar ended up being so low that maybe even in a game like this where I'm watching it in real time, I'm not even picking up on it as much because I'm not worried about procedural penalties. But then when you go back and you're watching really closely, then you see exactly how so many of these plays broke down and just didn't have time for a lot of them to develop. And then when they did, Lenore's took too many sacks too. Like both things were true at the same time.
That was the lethal combination. One, he was pressured too often, and then when he did have time, he would hold the ball too long, and that's a lethal combination. And to me, that hints that both position groups, the offensive line didn't regress. They maybe, I'd like to see if they were worse than they were last year, because it's very hard to regress from being bad.
I think so.
And they might have gotten worse.
Run blocking last year actually improved enough to be solid at the end of the year. Like they ran the ball against Clemson last year really well because a lot of it was good run blocking. Now, a lot of it was Lenore Sellers making magic happen when a pocket collapsed. Totally understand that. But as a run blocking unit, yeah, it was easy to give the ball to Rocket Sanders and have him run behind Torricelli Simpkins, and you're picking up 5-6 yards.
And that's the point. You remember last year we had Torricelli, unfortunately or fortunately, had the 2 penalties against Clemson, the 2 where he blindsided the dude, not blindsided, blocked him like he was in the blind side.
Yes.
Like Michael Orr took the dude into the stands, not blindsided. Let me make myself clear. And it was probably not the best thing to do at the time, but it showed some aggression.
Yeah.
We did not see any aggression. And sometimes it's like, man, if you're playing offensive line, you may not be skilled, you may not be strong, you may not be fast, but you can kind of just be a nuisance or mean or something. And if you don't have any of those things, you're not going to be successful. And that's where this offensive line is right now.
Got to have that dog in you at some point.
At least.
Yeah.
At least. I mean, again, you don't have to have that. You can be a technician. You can be a guy that just, works your feet and is an absolute technician. It helps if you got that dog in you, though. If you combine those things, you're probably unstoppable.
Right.
But if you're 0 for 2, if you're playing with terrible technique and you're not very tough, you're gonna have a long season, as we saw, and wasn't really fun playing those dudes.
Yeah, reflected in the 4-8 record. A couple of players that highlighted though, in terms of like when you're just watching closely, not even accounting for score or anything, you're just kind of watching and analyzing. Maybe the best player on the field in that game might have been Will Helt from Clemson. That guy was a game wrecker. He was everywhere. They could not block him at all in that game. I thought he was really good. I found it ironic, too, that Fred Johnson might have had his best game, J.R. Johnson, and his best games were the first and last.
Yeah.
And maybe if South Carolina played in the ACC and played Virginia Tech and Clemson and their ilk every week, maybe he is the best defensive player in college football.
Yeah, he sort of disappeared throughout the year. He had a great game early. I think that Vanderbilt game got him a little bit off kilter.
Vanderbilt exposed some things, I guess, in coverage. That might not be his strong suit.
That might have exposed him a little bit. I'm not going to save it for Garnet Glasses. Maybe I'll bring it back for Garnet Glasses, but Troy Pikes had a great game.
Troy Pikes was awesome.
He had a tremendous game up front, in the middle. I don't know what his status is as far as coming back next year or where his situation is, but he had a great game. He was really fun to watch. He was playing with aggression. He was playing with intelligence. He played hard. He was really fun to watch inside, and he was an absolute he was a problem for Clemson all game.
Troy Pikes is a redshirt sophomore, so he does have eligibility to come back.
Yeah, he was fun to watch. That was number 33. If you didn't know who Troy was, he was really fun to watch all game.
Yeah. I wrote that down too. So Troy Pikes, I put in all caps, awesome in that game. Also, it felt like from a run defense perspective, it just wasn't their best game either. And it wasn't like Clemson was getting a lot of explosive runs, but they did outside zone South Carolina to death at times, especially when it came time to picking up 5 or 6 on first down. They ran the ball on first down incredibly well, and a lot of it was just outside zone.
Yeah, if you don't – okay, so you could look at that and say, well, we didn't give up any explosives, but if you're giving up 6 yards a pop, that's right under the threshold for explosive.
It's close.
And all you got to do is just add that up 3 times, and you have an explosive, you know what I'm saying?
You have an explosive series of plays.
Yeah, so that's why that can be a little bit deceiving if you was to let somebody sort of trot that statistic out. But, yeah, it never felt as if Clemson was going to have issues running the ball.
No. It even though it wasn't eye-popping, because, like, even when we look back yesterday, technically speaking, South Carolina on a per-carry basis was better than Clemson if you adjust for sacks, right? Like, it was better. But Clemson committed to running that thing a whole lot more than South Carolina did, and that's why, like, South Carolina, if you look at just handoffs and rushes, just raw rushing attempts, only ran the ball 14 times, and Clemson ran it 40. Now, granted, I'm not been out of shape with that because I do firmly believe you haven't been able to run the ball incredibly well all season long. If you'd have told me going into this game that they're going to throw the ball 42 times, I'd be like, you know what? That's probably your best chance to win because that is what your offense just has done best throughout the entire season.
That's true. But then even again, when you get into that, if we're going to throw the ball 42 times, our passing portfolio is limited because we don't have an offensive line that can hold up protection. So we're very much limited to the short game, very limited to things that don't take a lot of time. And so even that, it still makes your playbook pretty small, that the things that you can choose from.
Yeah. It's not like you have an entire menu. Right. And it makes you play the what-if game, too. I mean, if you had an incredible, like even just like a good offensive line.
It made me think of you going to a restaurant, you're like, I like the bacon and eggs. We ain't got it. Okay, what about the sausage? Yeah, we out of that, too. Oatmeal? No, we ain't got that. Well, what do you have?
Well, we do have the oatmeal, but I don't think you want it. Oh, okay. Why is it on the menu then? All right, fine. I guess I'll go to McDonald's and get some ice cream. Our machine's broken.
Exactly.
And then you just kind of like, well, Pop-Tarts for dinner, I guess.
Exactly.
It sounds like if that's coming from experience, it's because it is.
Yeah, the menu's very small when you don't have an offensive line. So if you was to summarize what we just said, we just talked about our offensive line not being good, not being able to stop the run game. It means we got dominated on the line of scrimmage.
And I thought in both ways. Like, it wasn't like Clemson's offensive line was Joe Moore Award winning this season, but they looked really good in terms of keeping their pocket a little bit cleaner. Now, Cade Klubnik saw some pressure, but not a ton of it for it to make a difference. And really, if you just kind of want to boil this whole thing down to why, like one reason why South Carolina lost by 14, you can say the interceptions, sure, but the biggest thing was the dominance on the line of scrimmage to me. I think that was just the separator, the ultimate separator. Like one team won in the trenches. And it kind of increased their margin for error. And for South Carolina, really didn't have much margin for error. It's not going to be easy during the end of a 4-8 season. But Preston Thorne didn't buy literal garnet glasses for us to not wear them.
I bought them. We're going to use them.
We're going to use them. So coming up next, we're going to put the garnet glasses on. I can't promise you we'll see anything, but we're going to give it the old college try coming up next year in the early game.
Press here for our friends at Integrated Media. Listen, we've been trying to tell you all year that you could get your outdoor setup ready. Well, there's still time. And plus, we got the holiday season right here, right now. What better gift could you give than to have Samsung Terra TVs that are waterproof? You could be using them today. outdoor speakers for TV and music, Wi-Fi that works indoor and outdoors. So on Christmas Day, you can have all of the games playing because that's the start of the NBA season for me personally. But you have the NBA, the NFL, all those things happening, and the folks from Integrated Media can help you get that set up. From home theater setups to adjusting your thermostat or monitoring your security systems from your cell phone, Integrated Media is who you need to call. So call Nathan and Michael at 803-948-8327. That's 803-948-8327. Or you can reach them online at integratedmediainc.com. That's online at integratedmediainc.com.
I-26 eastbound just after exit 129. The right lane is blocked due to an accident, so expect to slow down there. Also, on Garners Ferry Road at Lower Richland Boulevard, we also have the report of an accident. We do have rain out there, expecting that to continue throughout the day. And 52 will be our high, overnight low of 36. The rain should be getting out of here later in the afternoon. Tomorrow, clouds and 52, 55 on Thursday. Right now, though, we do have that rain. Kind of feels like 36. They say it's 40, but it feels like 36.
All right, it's time to do it. I'm taking off my normal glasses. My cornea is going to hate me for this. Here we go. But on come the Garnet glasses. Now, well, doing this after a loss to your rival to make you go 4-8. Already seeing things a little differently. But you know what I'm seeing right now, Preston Thorne, with my Garnet glasses on? Jen's got hers on too. We're all rocking our Garnet glasses. Signing day's tomorrow, which means hope springs eternal. Now, it's a top 20 class. According to 24/7, you're the number 17 class so far. According to On3, you're the number 17 class in the country.
Okay.
Now, I don't even want to get into what that is in the SEC because that doesn't matter because my Garnet glasses are on.
That's right.
So not caring about that is paramount to the exercise. But who knows? Maybe you can get a commitment flip. They've been able to do that occasionally because we all know what commitments mean in college football.
Garnet, wait, Elijah, you got the Garnet glasses on.
I do.
Yeah, you started going down a path just now.
Well, they can get. I said they can be on the receiving end because my Garnet glasses are on. Of course, no one would want to leave here. Of course not. When they say they're committed,
they'll flip to us.
They
commit
to
here
us
for culture.
That's right. Because culture.
Right.
Yes, because culture and rah and family atmosphere and the love of the game.
Yeah.
And they really love Village Idiot and they want access to that. And Brian Glenn says, "Hey, buddy, we have pizza for you." That is what I'm banking on when I have these things on.
Okay, that I'll see your signing day, and I'll raise you a ongoing in process OC search.
Because it is
right.
It is.
There was some heat over the weekend. I don't know if you would say smoke, but maybe just some heat.
Heat, yes.
For the OC from ECU, John David Baker, there was some heat there. I don't know where that stands now.
Ooh, 3 names, maybe a triple option attack.
there was some. Yeah, John David Baker. He's got to be official. He has 3 names. Kevin Decker from ODU. I didn't see this heat. I won't say there was heat there, but that's just a name that's on a board. It's been floated. And so there's conversations that are happening now. Obviously, I don't know. You don't know. I'm not an insider. Elijah's not an insider. We don't know where the process is because the process, for all we know, it could be done right now.
Yeah.
It could be just waiting to announce it. Could be waiting on a handshake. Could be waiting for a couple of things to happen. But we are in the midst of an OC search. And that's very much a Garnet Glasses thing because, boy, let me tell you, the OC search last year did not turn out well. Tanked what was one of the best seasons we were possibly having. And so we have to get this right, and we are in the conversation.
I'll say offensive line coach. I'll throw in there, too, because it's going to be a long December. And if you nail those 2 hires, they'll give you reason to believe that maybe this year will be better than the last, to steal from the Counting Crows there. If you're able to land those, like obviously, you might not have the same personnel, but maybe you get more out of the personnel you have. That's why that's, like, to me, that's exciting, is because if you're able to have the coaches in place that have very specific visions for how they want this offense to run next year, whenever you do go portal evaluating, maybe you're better in the evaluation process. And that's another Garnet Glasses thing I wanted to get to. You have a fresh restart on the portal evaluation process because I think we can all agree that your 3 offensive linemen you brought in the transfer portal to be starting interior offensive linemen, to say it didn't pan out would be nice. Would be me putting it nicely.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of noticed slightly, and I'm not sure why I didn't pick up on it more, but Boaz Stanley did not play against Clemson. DNP. Coach's choice.
PFF does not have him taking a single snap.
So that's obviously they thought that there was somebody else that could do the job better. That's their decision. Then you had Rodney Newsom, who played how many snaps?
I think Ryan Newsom played 4.
4 snaps. So those are 2 guys he brought in the transfer portal who were older guys who were supposed to bolster the offensive line, did not end up playing. So that means that evaluation was wrong. And then on top of that, you had Boaz who did not play, Rodney who played 4. This is Garnet Glasses. Hold on a second. I'm getting there.
We're going to
get there.
Yes.
It's hard right now, isn't it?
And then Sharp, right? Nick Sharp,
Nick Sharp.
who
Whoa, buddy. We'll give you a little sneak peek in the next segment because I know this is Garnet Glasses, so I'll make this really quick. His pass block grade in true pass sets was 1.6.
out of
That would be out of 100.
here's my Garnet Glasses. It was not 0.
Exactly.
It wasn't a 0. Now, your kid comes home from school one day here in the future and say, Dad, I didn't do so good on the test. And you're like, well, what was your grade? 1.
Out of 5.
Like, out of 5. Out of 100. But put on your glasses,
you
Dad, it
scored.
wasn't 0.
It wasn't 0.
It wasn't
I
0.
did write my name on the paper.
That's right.
And spelled it correctly.
And spelled it correct, most importantly.
So, all of that to be said, there's a new portal evaluation process. Those 3 guys were older. I don't know what the invitation to come back is going to be for any of them or all of them. I'm not sure what that situation is, but there is new opportunities.
I have a feeling you'll probably bring back like the really young guys because there's maybe hope that if they just get a different offensive line coach, they will develop a little bit. Maybe another offensive line coach can see Josiah Thompson and say, all right, this is what you guys have been doing wrong with him. This is what we're going to try. And maybe you get out of Josiah what you got out of the last 6 weeks of last season, right? Like he was a freshman All-American for a reason. I think you did see some good stuff from Shed throughout the year.
Yes.
He's constantly graded out as one of your best offensive
I think
linemen.
he's the best offensive lineman this year.
You could build on that, right? I think you could build on what you have with Shed. And I hate having to live and die in terms of getting offensive linemen out of the transfer portal and hoping they mesh in one offseason. Because clearly it did not work this season. Maybe those 3 guys that we're talking about, like with Boaz Stanley, Nick Sharp, and Ronnie Newsom, are better offensive linemen than they showed, but maybe they just didn't mesh well as an offensive line because there is so much chemistry that is involved in having a good offensive front.
Those are some really nice glasses you have on. They're working.
Oh, that's
They're working.
I'm telling you, there's maybe like a chemical reaction.
So if we get a new offensive coordinator that we're really excited about, does that help us in recruiting? Like right now, we might struggle just a little bit with recruiting, maybe kind of. But if we get somebody that we're really fired up about, like, man, I want to play for him.
Yeah, it definitely helps because when they go out to recruit, the offensive coordinator can recruit to his vision and he can speak to, hey, listen, this is how I plan on using you. See XY spider banana, you're the banana, and that's what you're going to be doing right here. So it does help clarify for the recruits coming in what they're going to be doing because right now, I mean, they know they're committing to the program and to Shane, but they kind of do want to know what exactly I'll be doing. So that's a great point.
Especially if you're a recruit that has like a specific skill set. Like let's just say you're recruiting a high school wide receiver who's really good at taking jet sweeps and is really good at being what they would call the gadget guy. If this new offensive coordinator has good use for them and they have a history of doing that, they can say, hey, look what I've done with guys that are your same archetype, right? You're the type of receiver I want. I want to highlight you in this offense a ton. If I'm an 18-year-old high school receiver and I'm weighing options and I haven't gotten that level of guarantee from another prospective school, yeah, I'm jumping at that opportunity. That would certainly play well into South Carolina's favor if you are able to do that.
Yeah, and that's the benefit of having an established coordinator because they can say, hey, this is what we do. This is how we plan to use you.
So it's
This is how
important
you
we
can
get
help.
one now or very soon.
As fast as possible. Yeah. I mean, you don't
wanna rush
want to
it.
rush it, but you would like to make it happen. Kind of like how when my mom would be like, hey, you need to take out the trash. No, for real, take out the trash.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, can't see, like, I'm going to get to it. No, I mean, when I say it, you probably need to do it.
Especially when you get told the second time.
Yeah, like,
That's when it's like,
yeah.
I need to do this now.
And then your middle name gets called. Yeah, let's really do it.
Just feel a little more sternness in the voice. You're like, oh, okay.
DEFCON 1 levels.
Gotcha.
Once the 3 names are all thrown
John
out there.
David Baker.
Yeah.
Right. Once the full government name gets thrown out, then you know you're in a little bit of trouble. Well, now we'll talk about the trouble on Saturday. We can take the Garnet glasses off because Old Man versus Analytics is next.
Hey, it's Jen for CHW Cabinetry in Lexington, and the women-owned business in Lexington, locally owned, of course. And I'll tell you what, they were so helpful to us when we had to redo our kitchen due to a flood. It was not an exciting time for us. Sometimes you think, oh, man, I'm going to redo things. That's great. Not when you're in a hurry, but they made the process so much easier. And we had such a great experience that when it came to replacing cabinetry in a couple of our bathrooms, we decided, I mean, there was no choice as to who we were going to go to, but CHW Cabinetry. In your kitchen, maybe you find out as you were cooking for Thanksgiving, you found stuff from 2018. Okay, maybe get some drawers put in those. There's different ways for you to experience all that CHW Cabinetry has to offer. Check them out online, chwcabinetry.com, or call them today at 803-520-6837. Tell them Jen sent you. CHW Cabinetry, passion from inspiration to installation. Garnish Ferry at Lower Richland Boulevard, an accident there. Other slowdowns have been cleared, so that is really good. But we're going to be mindful because highways are going to be wet all day today. The rain will be continuing technically through, through maybe noon or 1 o'clock is what now they're saying. So we'll get that rain out of the way later on today. And then we're looking for a high of 52. It will be 52 with sunshine tomorrow, and increasing clouds on Thursday, 57 for the high. But right now it is 41. Kind of feels like maybe about 30, or they're about 39 and a lot of rain. So be careful out there this morning.
Yeah, you can kick it. And if you're one of the first two callers at 803-404-6100, you and three other homies can kick it at tonight's Gamecock men's basketball game against Virginia Tech at CLA starting at 7 p.m. SEC ACC Challenge. Should be a really fun game, but we have two family four-packs to give away. First two callers to 803-404-6100. You hear Jen Jensen's voice, you will be in attendance to one of really the marquee matchups on the Gamecock men's basketball non-conference schedule. Really looking forward to being in the building for that one tonight. We'll break that one down in the morning meeting a little more specifically, right? Because if we're putting garnet glasses on, well, it's basketball season until it's not.
Correct.
Yes, they did lose those two games, two tight ones in West Virginia. Still room for improvement. But I want to see how they do tonight at home against a team with a star player.
Yeah, and to just preview just my thoughts on it really quickly. 2 years ago, when the team made the run, the Virginia Tech win was the one where I said, huh?
You're like, oh, uh-huh. You kind of perked your ears up a little bit.
That's
like,
the one that caught my attention. So we'll get to it.
This could be it. But Old Man versus Analytics, we got to look at the Clemson game by the numbers, and there are a few that are, well, damning. A few where I think even on our Watch the Tape Tuesday reevaluations, they're kind of reflected in that pretty well. And I want to start off with pressure, right? Not to sound like Freddie Mercury and David Bowie, but Lenora Sellers is under pressure.
Great song.
On Saturday. Fantastic tune. But Lenora has only blitzed 10% of the time. 10%. Clemson this year, and we went over this in this segment last week, Tom Allen had about 4 or 5 games this year where they were blitzing at least 45%. There are about 3 games they were blitzing well over 50%. It was one of the more aggressive blitz rates I've studied in college football this year. I assumed they'd be aggressive, but they only blitzed 10% of the time and put pressure on Lenoris 36% of the time.
Yeah, that was strategic. They knew last year when they tried to put pressure on them, that put their players in one-on-one situations with Lenoris. They didn't want to do that. They didn't want to get in a blitz situation where the secondary and the back half of the defense, your back is turned to Lenoris when he runs. So they wanted to have all eyes on him. You know, probably had a spy.
They definitely did.
Had a spy. Also, everybody else's eyes kind of on him, too. So that's a smart play. And again, that's when you hope your 5 can beat their 4. Or we had 6 often in pass coverage because we often tried to max protect, and it did not work.
And look, if you don't force Clemson to have to blitz, why would they? If TJ Parker is just winning one-on-one against Josiah Thompson, why would they send extra help? If Peter Woods is winning on the interior, why would you need to send extra help? If Will Helt is getting to the quarterback, why do you need extra help? And the difference between last year and this year is not only did Clemson have a more effective spy, because they did the spy thing last year too, and they just took terrible angles at Lenoris, and Lenoris was able to just win that one-on-one matchup and run for 166 yards. Instead of having to do all that, they finally finished tackles this year too. Notice they were a lot more sure-handed whenever they got to Lenoris this year than they were last year. They made a big difference in the game in terms of like killing a lot of Carolina's drives. Now, when it comes to the South Carolina offensive line, Josiah Thompson gave up 7 of the team's 14 pressures. Nick Sharp gave up 3. So between the two of them, they gave up 10 of the 14 pressures that Clemson was able to get on Saturday. Really, the left side of the offensive line, if we wanted to really narrow it down, was what cost you.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. And that's the thing. Josiah, he was positioned to be a big-time player. He regressed, obviously, this year. But I got news for you, Josiah. You're always going to be facing the best pass rusher from now until as long as you want to play football.
Life as a left tackle.
That's why you have the opportunity possibly to cash in on the big bucks, because it is a highly skilled position. And he wasn't able to do that this year. Maybe he ran up against some dudes who taught him some lessons this year, saw where he needs to improve, and he can fix that. But, yeah, it was not a advantageous situation for him this year going against those dudes. Neither one of them, because I'm sure both of them. I'm sure TJ was like, "Hey, Will, come get some of this over here."
Yeah, he goes back to the
Free
sideline.
food over here.
It's like, buddy, you're in the wrong line over there. You got to pay a little bit over there. It's free on this side.
Yeah.
There had to have been a lot of that on Saturday. And when you go back and watch, too, what you see on the TV copy is the exact same as it's kind of reflected here. And what I noticed a lot, too, was Josiah was even getting a head start on some plays. Because in the last couple of weeks, I noticed he's gotten away with some false starts. Like he's getting up a little bit, right, before everybody else kind of moves. And there was one play in particular where he's lined up against TJ Parker. He moves a little early, got away with it, and still just got beat on a speed rush. It wasn't like, Parker hit him with a spin move or a swim move. It was just a speed rush on the outside. And Josiah even had a step and still lost it, right? There's something in terms of mobility that also needs to be fixed when we want to get to maybe the technical things that he needs to do to get better next season.
And again, because left tackle is a highly technical, I would say after quarterback, it is the most technical position on the field, offensively, for sure. Just because of the way it's all about angles, it's all about kick steps, single hand punch, all these different things that have to happen. And his technique is lacking, to say the least.
Yeah, and that would explain, because it's not like he doesn't have good size. He's got really good size for the position. It's one of the reasons he was so highly coveted coming out of high school. One of the reasons why he was Mr. Football.
There's two things I think that are lacking just from my eyes: the technique and strength.
Yeah,
there's two things that are lacking. And now you can get away with having one or the other. Right? If you have really good technique, maybe you're not as strong, but you're just so good technically that you can work. Or maybe you're just so strong that when you do get your hand somebody, it's over.
Right. Yeah. You can send someone to the ground.
Right.
With ease.
And when you're lacking on on those two things, it's really difficult to play that position.
Yeah. So that's when things kind of get elevated. Now, Jalen Kilgore, out of all the players in South Carolina's secondary, got targeted the most. Got targeted 12 times. Various success because he did pick off a pass. But does it say something that Clemson targeted him 12 times, or do you think that was maybe more just game circumstance?
I think it was game circumstance because it looked like a little bit he was in cat coverage, which if you don't know, cat coverage is this cat against that cat, and he was on Antonio Williams a lot. And it was a nice matchup. Both sides, made some plays. There was some catches. It was a nice matchup. He had the interception, the questionable pass interference call, which I think he was in position to make a play right there. So he might have got targeted by game circumstance, but I think he held his own.
Yeah, I think so too. And there were a couple times where he got got, Brandon Cisse got, but also there were a couple times they both forced incompletions. I thought the secondary, when I went back and watched it, maybe it was better than I gave them credit for.
Maybe.
Not a ton, but maybe I was able to give them a little breaks because I will say Clemson's receiving core had a really good game. And it is a talented bunch. TJ Moore's a talented receiver. Mm-hmm. Antonio Williams is really good. And one of the things that hurt Clemson early in the season was the lack of availability from Antonio Williams, right? We got hurt, essentially missed all of the LSU game. He got hurt on the first play and then missed a lot of time in the first quarter of the season, but they desperately needed him. And
also sneaky athletic Cole Turner.
Oh, the sneakiest of athleticism. Oh, we heard from some new coaches yesterday. We'll hear from them today coming up next on the early game. The coaching carousel spinning pretty fast this season, not just in coaches getting fired, but now, seemingly in a 24, 48-hour stretch, almost all of the spots, I think maybe all of them in the SEC, have been filled. Even Kentucky, who just fired Mark Stoops over the weekend, found a replacement last night with offensive coordinator from Oregon, Will Stein. Will Stein will be the play caller for Oregon in the college football playoff here coming up. But a few of these coaches have already addressed their respective local medias. And, of course, we'll hear from the one that made the news over the week, the one who's been the hottest topic, most discussed in college football right now. This would be Lane Kiffin. Here's a little snippet from Lane Kiffin's introductory press conference yesterday. Cut one.
Doing an audible here. Just give me 1 second. A little issue here.
A little issue. Maybe if I can pretend to be Lane Kiffin and say, you know what? I just didn't think Ole Miss was good enough, and I don't like any of you guys, and I lied to you for the last 5 years.
Too good for Mississippi.
I'm too good to be here. So I had my friends chill out on TV to talk about how I should be able to coach the playoff.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm here.
Lane gave his press conference yesterday, and he said a lot of things that would make you raise your eyebrows, and a lot of things that would say, "Come on, Lane, really? Like, seriously?"
Oh,
it's cool, man. Listen, if you just wanted to go, you could have just left. We don't need any. We don't need any of the pomp and circumstance around it. We don't need anything. You could just say, "Hey, man, I wanted to leave."
yeah, I wanted to split. Oh man, so here is Lane Kiffin talking about why LSU is quote unquote different.
I'm very honored to be the head coach of LSU. I can sum it up by saying this place is different. And having watched this place for a long time, having been on the other sidelines in this stadium, this place is different. And that's why we're here.
I've heard that before. You could have told me that was his introductory press conference at Oxford. I would have believed you. You could have told me that was his introductory press conference in Boca Raton when he took the Florida Atlantic job. I would have believed you. And it did kind of sound like him whenever in December of 2009 where he said, or 2008 where he talked about, we're going to win big here and we're going to play Rocky Top all night long when we beat Florida next year. People don't forget. This man knows what the greatest hits are, and he will play them as the encore every single time.
And, of course, LSU wants to be like, yes, us, we, of course we're different, Lane. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lane. You need me.
You think we're special? Oh, well, Alex Golesh goes to a place at Auburn. He could have easily said the same thing. This place is so special, yada, yada, yada. But Alex Golesh talked about a little bit of violence in his press conference.
What you're going to get from me, from our staff, and as we get rolling, our players, is the hardest working, toughest, grittiest program in the entire country. We're going to work day in, day out. We're going to find wins in every single margin we could find. We're going to be the most violent freaking team on the football field every single Saturday.
Now, thank you, Alex Golesh, for saying the most violent team on the freaking football field every single Saturday. Because if Urban Meyer would have just said, we're going to be the most violent team in college football, you would have thought something completely different.
And they won that contest.
By a wide margin. By a wide margin. If the Fulmer Cup standings took into account things that didn't necessarily get booked into Gainesville Police Department, they would have run away with that thing on an annual basis.
Wow. Okay. Alex Golesh, awesome story. Russian immigrant. Believe he came to the country when he was 7. His parents came here. It's a really awesome, really cool story. I'll keep my eye on that.
I'm intrigued by him. But I'm also intrigued whenever a legendary coach gives another new coach advice. Apparently, Steve Spurrier gave new Florida head coach John Sumrall some advice.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. I'm not going to do my Coach Spurrier impersonation, but I'll give it to you at some point. It was good. Coach, you were good, man. We're going to do that.
Just win a whole lot. Yeah, thanks, Steve. I didn't think about that. Thanks. I'll write that in my diary later.
And that strikes me as how Steve goes through life. He's like, why can't y'all win the Heisman? I did it.
I didn't.
You can't win at Duke? I did it. South Carolina, I won 12 games.
Why can't you?
Just do it. And everybody's like, but not you, Steve.
Just press the win button. Did you take it out and blow in the cartridge and put it back in?
Life in sports has been very easy for Steve Spurrier. He doesn't understand why nobody else can do what he's done.
Until he gets to the NFL.
Yeah. He's like,
That's the one thing.
I didn't like that.
That's the one thing. But everywhere else just wins. So if you need any advice for today, Steve Spurrier tells you just win a whole lot.
Thanks, Coach.
Great. Yeah. You know what? I'm writing that down right now. Just win a whole lot. We're going to try to do that in hour number 2 by recapping the college football weekend. Next.
Preston here for our friends at Absolute Glass, the premier glass company of the Midlands, offering auto, home, and business glass repair. So if your glass is damaged, shattered, cracked, or broken, they can handle the job. Cracked windshield? No problem. They'll come out to your location and replace it for you, usually for free, and they'll work directly with the insurance to take away the headache. They'll come out to wherever you are, school, home, work, it does not matter. Absolute Glass will come out to you and take care of the job for you. If you're at home, looking to increase the value of your home, you can do that with new windows or mirrors, and Absolute Glass will take care of that for you too. Windows, mirrors, shower enclosures. Say it all the time. If you can see through it, Ray and Marianne at Absolute Glass can do it. So check them out online at AbsoluteGlassInc.com. That's online at AbsoluteGlassInc.com.
Still working an earlier slowdown, Garners Ferry Road at Lower Richland Boulevard. And if you're traveling on I-77 northbound at Bluff Road, you'll find an accident there as well. And we're still going to see rain in the forecast, probably through lunchtime today. And then it should be clearing out. 52 is the high we're looking for. Sunny tomorrow. We'll welcome that. 52 for the high and 57 on Thursday. Now, we could see rain again maybe on Friday and Saturday. Friday's high about 46, but right now sitting at 41 on 107.5 The Game.
Hour number 2 of the early game starts right now. I'm Elijah Campbell. He's Preston Thorne. She's Jen Jensen. And we're reacting to some of the other stuff that happened non-Lane Kiffin related in college football over the weekend. Because, well, Lane Kiffin ended up being the story, and it ended up taking over a lot of national media outlets. It did kind of overshadow what was a really good college football weekend. Now, we did a lot of breaking down of South Carolina Clemson yesterday. Didn't even get to a lot of the stuff that happened in the world of college football because it was an intriguing weekend. The playoff picture's shaping up a little bit. You had that side drama that ended up taking center stage with coaching in the coaching carousel, as it happens in college football frequently. But there were a lot of things that have made not just the SEC championship game interesting, and the college football playoff race interesting, but new narratives were set. I think one player made an incredible case to be a Heisman Trophy winner over the weekend. And I kind of want to start with that one, too, because Vanderbilt went to Tennessee and beat them over the head with a 9-iron for 4 quarters. They got down 21-14, and they did the whole meme where, you know, the guy's sitting playing PlayStation or something in his chair, and he's leaned back, and then you see him move up a little bit, get a little close to the TV. That was Diego Pavia and Vanderbilt's offense once they got down 21-14.
And he made some throws.
Big boy throws.
He made some throws, man, that were, you know, the quarterback stepping up, taking charge of the game. You don't have to love him. He's obviously is annoying. His brother got arrested. It's everything. But the dude is a leader for that specific team, and they have followed him to heights they've never seen before.
No, this is their first ever 10-win season. Ever. And they've been playing college football since, like, Calvin Coolidge was the president.
You think about, I mean, James Franklin, much respect to you, but before anything they say at Penn State, his top resume bullet is, you know, he won 9 games at Vanderbilt, right?
Yeah.
That's like his top thing that anybody says about him.
That made him the hottest coach in college football because he won 9 games at a school where no one's won 9 games.
And now they've done 10. And so, yeah, this is a really fascinating story. I'm not all the machinations and the turns, all that can happen. They have an outside shot at the CFP, right?
I think they should seriously be considered. And what hurts them is, well, the fact that other SEC teams are just as good. Like, their losses are against teams that also in the playoff picture. Alabama's a 2-loss SEC team in the playoff picture. So is, Texas is a 3-loss team, but Texas also has a win against the number 3 team in the country at home. Texas is probably the most hotly debated team in the college football playoff picture because of what they did against Texas A&M. Do I think Texas should get in? It's tough, but probably not because you have a bad enough loss. When a lot of the resumes are close, you have a bad enough loss that probably eliminates you. At the time, you could look at the Florida loss and be like, okay, well, Florida can still finish 7-5 or 8-4, and maybe that doesn't kill you.
So is the metric, if you lost to a team whose coach eventually got fired, you can't make it?
Right? I think that's probably
that's a pretty solid
good
metric.
Yeah.
You lost to a team whose coach didn't make it through the year. You can't make it to the playoffs. Sorry.
Yeah, and I think that's part of it. I think that's a big part. Like, they were bad enough to fire their coach. And, like, Texas is such the most Jekyll and Hyde-ish team, too, because they have that bad loss. They didn't play particularly well in their wins against Mississippi State and Kentucky on the road, 2 of the worst teams in your league. But then they have wins against Vanderbilt, 10-2 Vanderbilt. They have a win against Texas A&M, and they played Ohio State closer than anybody has this year. We looked at that game. We clowned Arch Manning in Texas saying, oh, you only scored 7 points. Well, they held that Ohio State offense to 14. No one's gotten as close to beating Ohio State than Texas did on the opening weekend of the season.
This is a philosophical question that we should get into later, but do you value close losses, good losses?
I value nuance. I think when you look at Texas's overall resume, I think you should take into account that they played poorly in multiple wins, but also in the one loss. And I don't want to punish them for playing that Ohio State game. I will punish you for losing a conference game, the one that you lost, but I don't want to punish you too much for losing that game because of you hanging in there in a way that nobody else did against Ohio State. I feel like that's a fair fair barometer.
Let's put a pin on and come back to that, because I think that's an interesting conversation that will need to be had as we parse through the CFP.
As we get a little closer, maybe some blind resume exercises can be at play here. But when it goes back to Diego Pavia, too, because I was curious on something. Because I was like, did he really cement himself as a Heisman favorite? I know Fernando Mendoza had his Heisman moment, but Diego Pavia, if you look at the year, he leads the nation in completion percentage. He leads the nation in touchdown passes. He leads the nation in yards per attempt and adjusted yards per attempt, which accounts for the fact that a touchdown limits how many yards you can pick up on a play, right? And also accounts for interceptions hurting you in that number a little bit. It's a little bit more of an advanced metric, but Diego Pavia leads the country in that. Oh, also in quarterback rating. And he's the quarterback for a Vanderbilt team that won 10 games for the first time in school history. Like, should we legitimately be talking about Diego Pavia not just being a Heisman finalist, but winning it?
You know, and in my mind, as you was making that argument, I was agreeing until you said that Vanderbilt has won 10 games for the first time.
Because Mendoza at Indiana also has that very same thing.
And that's the argument where I was like, ooh, that might slow me down a little bit if I was in the, like I was rolling, and I was like, oh yeah, I forgot Indiana's terrible at football until the last 2 years.
Yeah, until the last 2 years, until Kirk Cignetti showed up. Curtis Rourke took him to 11-1 last year. Mendoza's got him at 12-0. But really, I mean, then when it comes in terms of the whole Heisman thing, we haven't even kept up with it a ton because there's probably not as much star power at the top as we've had in recent years. But I mean, it feels kind of like a 3-horse race right now between Mendoza, Pavia, and Jeremiah Love at Notre Dame, who's just putting up some absurd.
Yeah, and he's crazy. Right, he's fun to watch, and it's really awesome. The conversation for me is going to be like, what is the Heisman? And I think that is going to be another philosophical question that we have to parse out. Is it the best player? Is it the best story? Is it the most winningest player on the best team? Sort of like the MVP type of conversations that we have all the time. And any answer is acceptable, but maybe having some guidelines to figure it out might help people make their choices. But Pavia is a solid choice. If you're telling the story of this season, you can't do it without him.
I don't think you can at all. And because he is one of the more polarizing players in college football. There is a Johnny Manziel type feel with what he's done this year.
Yes, there is, but I want to make sure that we're clear. Only, at least from what we know, not with any of the antics off the field so far.
Yes.
From what we know.
He does not get in trouble.
Right. He doesn't get in trouble. So, and also.
Purely on-field demeanor.
That's one, two things. He's not Johnny Manziel off the field as far as getting the character. And he's not Johnny Manziel on the field either, because Johnny was a dog. Diego Pavia is great, but he's not Johnny Manziel. Johnny Manziel was rough.
I do think it is important to note Johnny Manziel did have a 6'6" freak wide receiver. That
is true.
Out a lot, too.
Hall of Famer.
100%. I've had that discussion with people. Mike Evans is a Hall of Famer.
Gotcha.
I'm sorry.
Gotcha.
This is going to be so Mike Evans has been in the league, 10, 11 years? Every single year in his career until this year, because he's missed, 70% of the season. This will be the first year he does not go for over 1,000 yards in a season. Maybe not ever the best wide receiver at his position or best wide receiver in the league at any given year, but is constantly a top 5 or 6 player.
Yeah.
And was for over a decade. I think that fits my Hall of Fame criteria for breaking down that one. But going into some other things too, there's my favorite storyline in college football right now is the ACC.
Please explain it to me, because I see a jumbled mess.
Oh, it's disgusting. And you know what? This is reaping what you sow as a conference and just inviting in whoever, because, the Big Ten added teams. We got to add teams too. We need to add them for the sake of adding them because everybody else is doing it. Don't succumb to peer pressure, kids, because this stuff can happen to you. So the ACC, obviously, like the SEC and the Big Ten, decided to bloat their conference. And because there was some level of a good level of parity at the top, here is what you have at the top. Now, Virginia was the only 7-1 team in the league. Now, they probably spiritually have 2 ACC losses, but the loss to NC State at the beginning of the year does not count as a conference loss because, they needed to fill out non-conference games. Stupid, dumb, pick whatever term you want to use. But Virginia, rightfully so, punched their ticket to the ACC title game. But SMU, Miami, Pittsburgh, Georgia Tech, and Duke all tied for second at 6-2. And by virtue of their tiebreaker, which apparently went down to the fifth inning because none of those schools, not all of them played each other. Now, Miami beat Pitt, and Pitt beat Georgia Tech, but I don't believe Duke played any of them. So by virtue of their tiebreaker system, which eventually gets down to conference strength of schedule, meaning just your winning percentage of your conference opponents, Duke at 7-5 is playing in the ACC title game. I would like to say they're playing for a trip to the college football playoff, but if Duke beats Virginia, the G5 is going to get one of those spots. But if James Madison wins their conference championship game, goes 12-1, and the winner of the American, I think we've already kind of penciled in as being in, is JMU higher ranked in the college football playoff than Duke? Because if so, the ACC's kept out of the college football playoff entirely.
So to be clear, winning the conference championship does not guarantee you a spot in the CFP.
Here's the loophole. The spots are designed for the 5 highest ranked conference champions. In theory, an ACC title game should put you in. However, when designing the 12-team college football playoff, I don't think Jim Phillips took into account that his bloated league would potentially have a 7-5 team in it that could keep them out.
And see, this is why we forget things. We had a system that worked, and then we got tired of it, and we wanted to do something new or greed, whatever the case is. And then you go back and say, oh, yeah, that's why we had divisions. Oh, yeah, that's why we had everybody play each other. It was a system that was working, but sometimes we get bored of things that are just fine.
Yeah, which is so annoying. And if you're Jim Phillips, the commissioner of the ACC, all you needed was SMU to beat Cal on the road. That's all you needed this past weekend.
They would have got away with it.
And they would have gotten away with it because then the winner of SMU Virginia would be in the college football playoff. But they can't have nice things.
So this is one of those things where when they're in the planning meetings and they're like, well, hey, Jim, if this, and this happen, he's like, don't worry about it. It ain't never going to happen.
Because last year, you almost had an 8-4 Texas A&M team in the SEC championship game. You were this close. But Texas beat them on the last week of the season to avoid the nightmare scenario that Greg Sankey was going to have because there was no way. Well, because they would have won that game, A&M would have been 9-3. They would have gotten pummeled by Georgia in the SEC title game, and it would have been 9-4. And they're not going to put a 9-4 SEC title game participant in the college football playoff. You would have been almost iced out, not iced out of the playoff like completely, but you would have basically had a spot for you eliminated.
Also, if Duke was to win this game, does that mean that they're the best team in the ACC?
I don't think so.
Not even close, right?
No.
It's a cool story, but no.
Realistically, if we're playing the Elijah Campbell eyeball test here, really the two best teams in this league have been Miami and SMU. And SMU beat them at home. I think those have been the two best teams in that league in terms of just talent, production. But then Miami couldn't help themselves because Mario Cristobal does it to his team once a year in laying an egg against Louisville when you're a 2-touchdown favorite at home.
It should come down to commissioner's choice. Jim, you get paid all that money, make a choice. I want these two teams.
Or I'll do what I like to call the David Stern random choice, like the lottery, right? And maybe freeze an envelope, kind of how some people believe the Knicks got Patrick Ewing in 1985. Maybe you could do something like that. Oh, we're just going to do a lottery system here to determine who gets to go. Not like a coin toss, but a little more controlled. And then you put Miami in there, and then maybe you have a
it's Miami.
Getting iced out. Yeah.
Wow.
Stunner. Well, all these envelopes say Miami on it. It's crazy.
That's a tough spot, man. So what do I generally cheer for chaos. What do I want to happen?
You want Duke to beat Virginia in the ACC title game.
Okay.
You need an 8-5 ACC champion.
All right.
And make the committee make a choice. Are you going to keep the ACC out of the playoff? So James Madison in North Texas can make it in, or whoever wins the American between Tulane and North Texas?
I like it.
It's a conundrum. If you cheer for chaos and you want to watch the world burn, cheer for Duke to beat Virginia in the ACC title game. A little less chaotic is our morning meeting because tonight we'll break down South Carolina's matchup in the SEC-ACC Challenge against Virginia Tech. Coming up next.
Guys, listen, feeling like you lost your edge, maybe brain fog's got you struggling to focus. Are you working out but not getting the results that you used to? Well, there's a reason that you're not feeling like yourself, and it might be low testosterone. But you don't just have to live with it. You can reclaim your drive, your energy, and your focus at the Men's Clinic with Dr. Dan Boatnight. Dr. Boatnight is a respected local physician, and he will talk to you in person, face-to-face, not some faceless online program that you don't know who it is, that you don't know where they are. You get a chance to talk to Dr. Boatnight personally, and he tells your treatment based on your labs and your symptoms. Those labs, your first consultation, absolutely free. Come in, get your T-level checked. You don't have anything to lose. Don't wait. Call them at 803-875-MENS. That's 803-875-MENS. Or you can find them online at mensclinicsc.com.
Downtown Columbia, Gervais Street near Hugie, there is a report of an accident there. Also, if you're traveling on I-77 northbound at Bluff Road, expect a bit of a delay. That rain that we are seeing, kind of heavy at times, should be out of here after lunch. Now it's looking like it's going to end a little sooner than we had anticipated. So good news there. And then our high, we're going to top out at about 52. Now the overnight low tonight will be 35. Tomorrow's high 52, overnight low of 33. Come Thursday, 57 for our high. But it's a rainy 41 right now on 107.5 The Game.
Oh, man, non-conference basketball. South Carolina doesn't have a ton of marquee non-conference games. They had the games in Greenbrier. They lost to Butler and Northwestern. But more importantly, instead of losing to Butler, they lost the Jen Jensen Bowl. So the Jen Jensen Trophy resides in Hinkle Fieldhouse until further notice.
Absolutely. I get to visit it because it has my name on it.
That's right. It's got your name and your face on it. And they actually have that displayed right next to their 2 Final Four banners.
And to me, that's how it should have always been.
If I've heard, just a rumor, right? Unsubstantiated here. So I'm avoiding any type of legal trouble here. I heard they moved Gordon Hayward's retired jersey just so they could put the Jen Jensen Bowl trophy there.
I'd heard the same rumor. It wouldn't surprise me, though.
It's floating around, but I've never been to Hinkle Fieldhouse, so I can't confirm nor deny that.
Yeah, I kind of wanted the trophy to have more of a Borg Warner feel, for the Indy 500, where they actually carve out their faces and things, because I just thought, this is of that magnitude.
It is, if not more. Honestly, more important to the social fabric of the towns of Indianapolis and Columbia, South Carolina.
100%. Thanks for playing along with the little rose-colored glasses in my little fantasy world.
That's what we're here to do. We're daydreamers here on this show. But Carolina's got the SEC-ACC Challenge tonight. I don't know if they're doing it SEC-ACC or ACC-SEC because that apparently alternates on a year-to-year basis, but you get the gist. So for the morning meeting, we'll preview that matchup with Virginia Tech.
Good morning.
Morning.
Repeat after me. Today will be an awesome day.
Yeah.
Let's go. Good morning, great today. Today will be an awesome day. Good morning, great today. Today will be an awesome day.
It's always an awesome day when you have fun non-conference basketball matchups. And tonight, Virginia Tech visits South Carolina. Now, I'm not going to lie. At the beginning of the year, I would not have been incredibly amped for this matchup because I just don't think very highly of Virginia Tech at all. And I was on a believe it when I see it base kind of with South Carolina, right? Because there's so many new pieces. The game might have had some intrigue, but not what it has now. Because with Virginia Tech, there is a lot of intrigue. And I became intrigued with them at the very beginning of the season when they beat Providence in overtime. And you saw that they had a freshman point guard who is 6'9", 215, who they got from Greece. And I'm going to absolutely butcher this name.
Let's go. Wait, let me see it.
Neokulis Avdalis. Neokulis Avdalis. I think that's how you say it.
That was pretty good, I think.
We call him Neo here.
All right.
My boy Neo. Again, 6'9", 215 point guard. In that Providence game, dropped 33 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists, only turned it over twice. Now, the team, Virginia Tech, did struggle a little bit in the Bahamas. They did lose to St. Mary's by 11, which a lot of teams will lose to St. Mary's. That no matter who is playing, as long as Randy Bennett's coaching at St. Mary's, that's going to be one of the toughest defenses in college basketball. And then VCU ended up taking them to the woodshed pretty good too. And my boy Neo did not have his best shooting game in that performance. But they do come back to the continental United States, playing their first game since then on the road to South Carolina. Virginia Tech will be intriguing because I think they can hang around the bubble if they have a really good ACC season, because the ACC is significantly improved in basketball. It was kind of the butt of some jokes last year with how bad they were. But this is a league that's going to be really top-heavy this year, and if Virginia Tech gets a few wins, they can be a team that's legitimately on the bubble. And I think that's a win that if South Carolina can secure tonight, can be a nice resume chip whenever it does come down to resumes mattering.
So what are 3 things that this South Carolina team needs to do tonight to come out on the other side?
I think the biggest thing they need to do tonight is rebound a lot better, because South Carolina is outside the top 240 in college basketball in terms of offensive rebounding, which is why they haven't been able to look as good in bad shooting nights. You can get away with it against Radford because you're going to be more athletic, you're going to be bigger, you're going to be faster, you're going to be stronger. Yes, you will win those games. But they didn't offensive rebound particularly well against Butler.
So I had a good news, bad news scenario. When you say rebounding, Eli Ellis was notable for the rebounds that he had, I believe, the last game. Mm-hmm. Good for Eli. bad for the team.
it should not be noticeable.
Right.
That should not be the case.
Right.
You have to crash the glass a little better. And that's the one thing with South Carolina too, when they were shooting so many threes earlier in the season, like in the first 4 or 5 games, if they're not going in, you still survive because you're able to create second chances. If you can't do that against your conference opponents, good luck surviving bad shooting nights. Then you're banking on winning games of horse. And I don't know how sustainable that could be, especially since we have seen some significant three-point shooting regression with this team. Now on the season, they're shooting 32%. Almost half their shots come from three. They're shooting 32%. And if you do the math, 33% from three is 1 point per shot, which is efficient. That's kind of what you're aiming for. But if you're not getting at least 1 point per shot, then they become inefficient shots. And with the way they've shot the ball recently, it's no longer viable. You have to shoot no worse than 33% on any given night for those to not be wasted possessions, especially if you are not rebounding the ball and creating second chances. And you're playing a Virginia Tech team tonight that does have a little more size. Again, their point guard is 6'9" and is a really good rebounder.
When you look at when you talk about having to, we said a game of horse. Even when you're talking about shooting threes, there's still good ones and bad ones.
Yes.
Right? Now, with this particular team, do they want to shoot them? Do they want to shoot them early in the possession? Do they just want to shoot the first open look? What is sort of their philosophy as far as how they're shooting these threes?
The philosophy a lot of times comes from getting paint touches and kickouts.
Okay.
That's kind of what Lamont Paris loves. If Lamont could have his dream possession, it's that you take about 15 seconds off the play clock or the shot clock. You have a dribble drive or a post up that ends up being kicked out for a three.
Okay.
Statistically speaking, those are your more efficient ones, especially if you can get them in the corner.
Another good news, bad news thing revolving around Eli Ellis. He is one of the best three-point shooters, but also he's kind of been one of the best post players too.
They have engineered a lot of threes from him posting up, because I don't know if you'll be able to do that tonight, because if you are being guarded by Big Neo, then you're at a height disadvantage in that post.
Significant.
A significant height disadvantage. Finding Eli Ellis opportunities to play make is another thing. If we're putting a rebounding number one, I think that's going to be number two, is finding ways for him to be able to still play make. Because one of Eli Ellis' superpowers is he's really good at playing off of 2 feet in the post. But this is the first time this year he's going to play against somebody matched up against him. More than likely, because I have a feeling that's who they're going to put. If I'm Mike Young, I'm putting him on Eli Ellis, just because of that size advantage, right? Because I do think he is, pound for pound, the best creator of offense on the South Carolina team. So if I'm Mike Young, I'm going to look at this game and I'm going to say, you know what, we're going to put Neo on him, and if he wants to play off 2 feet, we'll make him play off 2 feet against somebody who's got about 9 to 10 inches on him, and see if he can play make out of that.
Yeah.
And then figure it out from there if he is. So that's one matchup that I'm really looking forward tonight in watching and seeing exactly how that happens and how they are able to manage that. But these are two like-for-like opponents. If you are like me and you're a KenPom fiend, because Virginia Tech is 76 in KenPom, South Carolina 89. A win tonight will boost them up in those rankings just a little bit. But we'll get back into the football, back into Gamecock football, because this program is at a serious crossroads, and this year was not acceptable. Can it be fixed? And if it can, what are those first steps? We'll get into that next. Now, I can't remember the exact number. I think it's 17 or 18 times that you have to do something consistently for it to be considered a habit, right? But if that's only 17 or 18 times, if a company told you that for 30 years they've been the proven leader in the roofing and waterproofing industry, you would say that that history and that level of success is a habit. And Midstate Roofing does that, right? They have a habit of being the leader in the roofing and waterproofing industry. They have a habit of providing proper advice, service, and results to the specific needs of your facility. And they do so in a manner both safe and pleasing to your operation. And that's all you need to know to have that assurance that the professionals at Midstate Roofing will get the job done. No matter what building it is, they will make sure that your operation is dry and running long into the future. 803-356-1919. You can always hit them up online at midstateroofing.com. But remember, if you have a leak, let Midstate Roofing take a peek.
Traveling on I-77 northbound at Blythewood Road, you're going to encounter a slowdown as the left lane is blocked. Also, Blythewood Road at Wilson Boulevard. You find an accident, Garners Ferry Road at Halbrook Drive. Downtown Columbia, Gervais Street near Hugie, an accident. In Lexington, Wise Ferry at Highway 378. And then also on I-77 northbound at Bluff Road, you'll encounter a slowdown due to an earlier accident. Rain should be out of here after lunch today. Our high of 52, overnight low of 35. Sunny and 52 tomorrow, but it is a chilly start to your morning with that rain out there and sitting at 41.
803-404-6100. That's the AAA Heating and Air phone lines, because in this segment, we're going to take a serious look at this program right now because they are kind of at a crossroads. You followed up a 9-win season that saw you on the cusp of the college football playoff, returned the quarterback, returned the star edge rusher, returned the SEC's leader in interceptions, and had a potential top 3-round draft pick at wide receiver. Things seem to be in good shape to be back in that spot to contend for a college football playoff this year. Long story short, didn't happen. You're 4-8, and now you fired an offensive coordinator. You got to get another offensive line coach. You have to rebuild once again, finding yourself in a very similar but worse position than you were in 2023 when you went 5-7. But we'll get out to the phone lines because Ray has called in. Ray, good morning. Welcome to the early game.
Good morning. How's everybody doing today?
Fantastic. You doing all right?
Well, doing good. Yeah, doing good. Yeah, I'm trying to get past the game itself as far as the execution. Of course, that was poor. Things that Beamer said. So I'm moving on, and I wish Coach Beamer all the best and, getting this OC nailed down and, getting things going for next year. But, golly, I'm kind of a little like Preston after I kind of watched a little of the highlights yesterday. I'm telling you, we get Clemson at home, which your yearly rivalry, of course, you play them once every 2 years at your place. The optics of that game was a big fail by us. The sandstorm not working as much as it did. But then I looked at those uniforms. Whoever agreed to white helmets with black uniforms, I don't know. And those white T-shirts hanging out, we actually looked sloppy. They have got to get to the point where they have one or two uniforms. You got to be able to look at a team and know the brand. It hurts me to say this. When you see Clemson, you know it's Clemson. When you see Georgia, you know it's Georgia. When you see Tennessee, you know it's Tennessee. But if you're the average college football fan and you see South Carolina, you kind of scratch your head at first, who is that? They have got to get more brand with their uniform. And when you play Clemson, you've got to wear, especially at home, you've got to wear your predominant color, which is garnet. That was very disappointing, and I'd like to hear what you guys got to say. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for the call, Ray. Preston, I know you have been very much so on the record with not liking how they won or wore their uniform.
Yeah, I thought they looked sloppy. I just didn't think they looked like a put together outfit. And I've been thinking about this, like, why is that because you just want people to show up so that you trust them, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't trust any of those dudes in those uniforms that they were wearing. Like, if my doctor walks into the office and his T-shirt's hanging out of it, I'm like, I don't know if I trust you, man. You know what I'm saying?
Are you good?
Yeah,
you're all messy.
Yeah, I don't know if that's the thing. Same way as if my plumber shows up in some $100, $300 raw denim jeans. I'm like, I don't think you could do this job, brother.
I need to see some like work stains on here, man.
And I just didn't like the way they looked, and I think that's something that they really do need to address. Yes, it's something small. Maybe you think it's trivial, but I do believe all of those, the way you do those small things, especially on the offensive line, leads up. As far as the uniform is concerned, I think that's something we as a university have always had an issue with. What is our mark? Are we the Carolina script? Are we the Fighting Chicken? Are we the Block C? What is our thing?
Is that going to change? Like, do you think we'll get more of a brand consistency and identity with moving to Nike this year?
Interesting question.
I do think we will, because they don't play that.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you're Oregon.
Right. So Oregon's idea is that they have all these different uniforms and you can figure something out. I do agree with Ray. We can probably pick 3, 4-ish uniforms and roll with them. Having all of these different combinations is cool, but as somebody says in the fashion industry, it is better to look good than to look different. Right? You don't need to just put something different on every day. Put something on that looks good every day.
Looking at you, Russell Westbrook.
If it's the same thing, cool. That's fine. If you know it looks good, wear it. Wear the things that look good. And as I said last week, Big Game Garnet was right there. Clemson was right around the corner, and you wore the Big Game Garnet uniforms against Coastal.
Foul.
That was a misstep. So, yeah, those things may or may not contribute to the actual scores on the field. But as Ray said, if we're playing an optics game, we need to be able to figure out who and what we're doing as far as how it looks.
Well, think about military. You know, I mean, they have to be
You know
crisp.
who's who.
Yeah.
And to your point, there have to be some sort of precision, right? And I just think there is something to, yes, the wide receivers, because they're more free-spirited and they're more divas. Let them put some armbands on and you let them do a little bit of this, that, and the other. But like the dudes I need going to work, the O-line and D-line, I need you to look like you're going to work.
Tuck that in.
Yeah, man. I need you to have a workman's attitude towards it, and they just did not.
It just reminds me of my favorite John Wooden stories, where the first practice every single year, no matter if you're a returner or not, everybody on the team is going to take off your shoe. You're going to put your shoes on all together, and he's going to teach everybody the proper way to tie your shoes. And he said, we're going to master the fundamentals of everything
Oh, wow.
in this program. Every single year. John Wooden, man who won, 11 national titles at UCLA? First practice every year. Didn't start off doing drills. They started off learning the proper way to tie your shoelaces.
I love that.
It just reminded me, like, they were wearing their uniforms, and one of my favorite phrases, all willy-nilly.
Yes.
That's the word I would use to describe the way. All willy-nilly, just whatever. Whatever. Just throw a T-shirt on under it.
And honestly, that's kind of how the play calling
Kinda
was. That's,
willy-nilly.
I mean, the whole, like, the season was kind of willy-nilly.
Willy-nilly, yeah. And I guess maybe if we're getting back to, like the original question of what are the steps in fixing it, yeah, you could talk about the OC hire or offensive line coach hire, but kind of resetting everything at a fundamental level probably isn't a bad way to go. Uniformity with uniforms. Making sure every fundamental aspect of what you do on a football field is mastered before you really get to anything else. Maybe that is an approach that needs to be considered when you get into spring practice, because clearly Septembers haven't been great for Shane Beamer in this program. This past September was a real bellwether as to what was going to happen the rest of the season. Maybe if you master some of those things early and you're off to a better start, then maybe you see some progression throughout the year, because then you have something to build on. Now, I'm not saying you should practice tying your shoes in the first practice of the season, but a lot of fundamental things need to be corrected in order to build a level of consistency in a program.
Think about a golf swing or maybe a shot in basketball. I'm not a basketball expert, but in golf, you need to do the same thing. Your approach is the same. Your setup is the same. Like you just have to have those fundamentals and just be very consistent with that. So that I don't know that we're seeing that.
Maybe this is something that's just easily overlooked.
You see programs do this all the time, especially coming in and now winter workouts. You'll see the teams, everybody has to wear the same. This is not high schools do this. Everybody, when you show up for this workout, we're wearing the garnet shirt and the black shorts today. Everybody, you don't wear it, get on the line.
Yeah, get on the line.
That is a thing that you do, and to show up to games wearing whatever you want, however you want. I just don't think it lends to a team. This might be my oldest get off my long tape, and I think I fully believe it. Because look, man, you dress however you want in your personal life, that's cool. But when we're all wearing this uniform, it should be a uniform.
That's why they call it uniform.
Correct.
Right. Uniformity, big part of that right there. Well, we have the heart color, the heart glasses. They are also the garnet glasses. We're using them for two purposes today, because Team Crush Tuesday is coming up next, including one team at the FCS level for me that made some significant history, featuring a former Gamecock. I'll tell you who that is next. I am once again taking off my normal glasses and putting on the heart-shaped ones, not just because we did garnet glasses earlier, but right now, it's time to crush on some teams because it's Team Crush Tuesday, and I'm more excited about this particular one than I've been in a long time because Preston Thorne, I talked about my favorite story in college football being the absolute total mess the ACC has in terms of 7-5 Duke maybe potentially icing that conference out of the college football playoff entirely. But you know what? There's also a really cool story that happened in the Ivy League. Now,
Oh, okay.
a little bit of history. Normally, the Ivy League would say, no, we don't want any of our teams playing in the FCS playoffs because we're the Ivy League. We got to study for finals. We got to do all the smart kid stuff,
We're smart.
right? Not anymore because the Ivy League this year, first year, they are allowing their champions or whoever gets an at-large into the FCS playoff. Well, Harvard was in perfect position to win the Ivy League. But some fella named Dante Reno,
Oh, yeah.
quarterbacking Yale, had different plans. They beat Harvard in the classic rivalry game, one of the best rivalries in all of college football. It's a bucket list game I want to get to. But they beat Harvard at home, get the Ivy League auto bid. Harvard made it in as an at-large. And Yale, despite trailing 35-7 at Youngstown State at halftime, came back
The Penguins.
and won the game. The Penguins, well, I don't say got iced out of the rest of the playoffs.
They did not have happy feet.
They did not have happy feet. If anything, they had cinder blocks for feet in that second half because Dante Reno threw for 260, 3 touchdowns, had 2 early interceptions. But despite all that, and with the help of Josh Pitzenberger's 209-yard performance on the ground, Yale wins 43-42 and became the first ever Ivy League team to win an FCS playoff game. And did so, again, let me repeat, down 35-7 at halftime. Came back and won that game. Now, unfortunately, that fairy tale is probably going to come to an end this next week because they got to go to Bozeman, Montana, and play Montana State, who's been an absolute juggernaut in the FCS. But for 1 week, Yale was the coolest story in college football.
That feels like that's how all these Cinderella stories end. Like, you got to go to Bozeman where it's cold and dark. And they run
Heartless.
the Maryland Eye.
Yeah. and you gotta stop a fullback for 4 quarters.
Yeah. Shout out to them. They probably
And 2 feet of snow.
Yeah, this is their time of year. This is when they make an appearance on Team Crush Tuesday. My Team Crush has made an appearance before, but I got to see them against one of my other crushes because again, I really like Georgia Tech. I have an eye for Georgia Tech.
You have all year long. Frank Key's your boy.
Frank Key's my guy. I like their style. I like everything about how they get down as a staff, as a team, as a program. Jerseys are tucked in. I love it. That being said, watching Georgia handle him in a 16-9 slobber knocker. Oh, your boy was excited.
Winnie the Pooh in a tuxedo watching that game.
Man, that's my type of game, man. Listen, I don't know whether you call it getting away with it, whether they're resilient. Do they know how to win close games? Do they play the games too close? I don't know. But Georgia seems to continue to be able to do this all year. So I really like what they have going on. And as I said earlier, Kirby just seems to have like a little twinkle in his eye this year. He just seems to be.
He's different.
Yes, he seems to be enjoying coaching this year. He just seems a little bit different. So good on him.
He does. And I can definitely appreciate. And that's what makes me feel like Georgia's more dangerous. They've kind of almost been under the radar as a national title contender. Would it shock me if they won it all this year? No. And you know what? Maybe it's just the heart glasses. But maybe I picked them to win the SEC title game. Maybe this is when they finally get it done. They finally beat Alabama. Kirby finally beats Kalen DeBoer in Alabama and exercises those Atlanta demons against Alabama because they seemingly never lose there.
I'm going to put a preemptive one out here, which I think is going to be coming to fruition if things play out. But obviously, Ole Miss is going to be America's sweetheart moving forward, right?
Like everybody's going to be cheering for them to advance.
Everybody's going to be cheering for Ole Miss to go forward. And I hope that if they win, when they win, that your boy does not get a ring. He doesn't get recognition. He doesn't get his name on a banner. He doesn't get anything because he didn't finish.
Bingo.
Oh, yes. It's kind of like Will Smith and The Fresh Prince, and maybe the most heartfelt scene in the history of American television, where he's complaining to Uncle Phil about his dad, and he goes, I did all this without my dad. I learned, to be a student. I did all this, and I'm going to be a better father than he ever was. Well, we're going to go to the college football playoff. We're going to be a better team than he ever let us be. We're going to do it without him. How come you don't want me?
Why don't you want me?
I can't help but wonder if, now that Muschamp isn't at Georgia, is that why Kirby's happier?
I don't know.
Just throwing out
Brian Windhurst, finger pointing. Before we get out of here, too, I know Preston's going to like this. My pal Justin Hall from the High School Football Scoreboard Show by Paymore says, my Team Crush Tuesday is Somerville.
Woo, woo.
On the revenge tour.
We're back.
Now we're going to have to just make the John McKissick T-shirt to make Langston Moore wear.
Surprisingly, it wasn't on my phone a lot this weekend. Interesting. Hi, Langston.
So we'll get to that coming up next.
The third and long hour of the early game starts right now. I'm Elijah Campbell. He's Preston Thorne. She's Jen Jensen. He's Randy Young in the video engineering studio here in Studio 803. And today is Watch the Tape Tuesday. For the last time, we will go back and review what happened in South Carolina, Clemson. How did this thing end up being a 28-14 loss for South Carolina to ultimately put an ugly bow on a 4-8 season? We went back and watched this game yesterday to see what we can maybe pick up that we might not have picked up in real time. And Preston Thorne, a few things. I think the main overall take I got from this, from rewatching it, was just how big a discrepancy it was between these two football teams in the trenches. Clemson's offensive line did a much better job of protecting the pocket and creating rushing lanes, especially on outside zone, to give their running game a lot of effective plays early and often. And on the other side of it, too, South Carolina's offensive line could not contain Clemson at all. Clemson didn't have to blitz. As we noted earlier, Clemson only blitzed on 10% of their possessions and still got pressure on Lenora Sellers 1 out of every 3 plays.
Yeah, and I think that illustrates the ineptness of the offensive line, which we've known all year, but it was magnified in this particular game. It was magnified because it was a rivalry game, so you knew it was going to be physical. It was magnified because you were playing a defensive line who decided to wake up and live up to their first-round grades and their second-round grades, and even Will Helt, and I don't know where he's ranked, but he's going to be on some boards. I guarantee you that. Those dudes played really well. I'll give them credit, but also our deficiency at offensive line was shown. It wasn't just shown through technique, but it was shown through toughness. They basically got thrown around all game. And we talk about ways for the program to improve. It's not a secret. Everybody's called for it. But the offensive line has to be the first spot where those changes need to be made.
And the evaluations are going to have to be, it's more important to land and really nail your evaluations in the transfer portal this year more than ever. Because, quite frankly, when you have an offensive line season like this one, it tells me you probably don't have enough behind those starters to feel good about elevating them going into next year. You're going to be in a similar position you were last year, where more than likely you're going to fill the spots of right guard, center, left guard through the transfer portal. It's what you had to do after last season, and you didn't hit those evaluations. I think we all agree Boaz Stanley, Rodney Newsome, and Nick Sharp didn't pan out. And that's one of the reasons why this offensive line struggled as mightily as it did. And when you didn't get the jump from guys like Josiah Thompson, then the offensive line as a whole will struggle, right? I mean, chemistry is one thing, but taking a step forward in your development as an individual player is another. And you just didn't get any of that to come to fruition. And this was all kind of highlighted in Game 12 when you're experiencing them struggle with the same type of stuff they struggled with against Virginia Tech in the first game of the year. Stunts, twists, things that involve complex communication at the line of scrimmage and the point of attack that we saw plays in that Clemson game that looked eerily similar to stuff that we saw in Atlanta against Virginia Tech back in the last day of August.
Fundamental things that should be handled early. You should be able to take care of them. Of course, you're going to get beat sometimes, but handling a simple twist up front is, I don't know, that's akin to being able to hit the cutoff man in baseball. Like,
yeah,
it's stuff you should be able to do.
Some day one stuff
at a very high level. They weren't sending very exotic blitzes. They weren't sending overwhelming blitzes. They were just working with what they had, and they dominated up front. And so the offensive line is going to have to be evaluated. Personnel, coaching, attitude, approach, all of that needs to be taken into account because they weren't successful. They weren't successful early in the year. They got rid of the coach. They weren't successful for the rest of the year. And yes, the procedural penalties got lessened, but they were still there.
Yep, you still had them. Too many guys off the line.
You didn't see any improvement in technique. So the new offensive coordinator that's coming in, I don't know what the situation is going to be with Sean Elliott or what the situation is, but Sean Elliott took over the offensive line. They didn't improve that much. Obviously, if you're a Sean Elliott guy or if you're Sean Elliott, you say, if I would have had them all year, they would have been better. Maybe. I don't know. But the fact is that after they were under his tutelage for the rest of the season, they didn't get better. In fact, against Clemson, they were worse maybe than they've been all year.
Yeah, and here's the thing too. Despite a lot of that protection issue, and Lenore's not helping the protection issue because his pressure to sack percentage was above 30, and that should never be above 15, right? He did two things can be true at once. The protection can be inadequate, and he still can be holding on to the ball too long. But what's so frustrating too, and this is also just another microcosm of your season, is despite some of that, you still were able to throw for well over 300 yards in this game because the passing game did look good, right? You had 2 receivers go over 100 yards. You did show that you can just zero in on a couple of guys and then be incredibly effective. But it wasn't good enough because you struggled to do a lot of the more fundamental things. That's what limits you, right? You can still have some explosive pass plays, still exhibit the athleticism that some of your playmakers have, but only get in the end zone twice because you don't protect very well. Or when the field gets shorter, you shrink a little bit on offense. And we saw some of that where you mentioned earlier, the condensing of the playbook because of just what you can and cannot do with your offensive line kind of limits you to the variety of things that you can run. I think what you saw once this Carolina team got past the 50, which only about 28% of their plays were run past the 50, and they didn't run a single snap past the 50 in the first half, then you saw those deficiencies come in because you got to be able to protect a little better whenever that field shrinks.
You breeze by that. They did not run a single snap. Now, what's the 50 zone? That's not the red zone.
No, that's just the middle of the field. That's just smack dab in the middle. That's where your logo is, man.
They didn't cross midfield, obviously, except for the big plays.
Yeah, they did not. Yeah, Lenore Sellers did not catch a snap out of the shotgun inside Clemson territory in the first half. And that's a killer. And then you compound it with the interception in the red zone that they had in the second half. You compound that with the pick six that ultimately is what sealed the deal for the game. The pick six obviously was the ultimate backbreaker. But once again, this team struggled once they got even onto the other side, the plus side of the 50, to be able to generate any offense. And this is not the first time we've had to say that this year. Like the LSU game is one that just is highlighted in my mind. Your only touchdown was a 72-yard run from Matt Fuller. You only got past the 50 a handful of times. You didn't take a single snap inside LSU's 25. And when you did get there, you had penalties back you up, turning a 2nd and 1 or whatever into like a 4th and 20, right? And then when you get back there later in the game, when you have a do or die drive, it's a 4th down, and you decide to throw towards LSU's best corner, who is not just LSU's best cornerback. He is maybe the best coverage corner in all of college football. It's just, we saw so many things in this game, even upon rewatching, where I couldn't tell if this game could have been played in late November, or if it was played in mid-October, or the first game of the season. Mm-hmm. And I think that is what reflects a lot of frustration with this team this year, is you just never saw that over 3-month type evolution that good football teams undergo.
So when you compare and contrast this year versus last year ended on such an upward trajectory. Even after the bowl game, because we were so high, we were willing to maybe look past some red flags. Maybe there were some red flags flying that we looked past because of the 6-game trajectory. And then if you looked at the 6-game trajectory for this team, we don't, as a fan, it's very difficult to give Shane and company the benefit of the doubt. I hear you. I understand that you think that you're going to be back in the CFP. I want you to feel like that. That's awesome. Me as a fan, very difficult to give you that benefit of the doubt when there's no evidence to prove, or you haven't told us what's going to be different.
Yeah.
Until you tell us what's going to be different, we don't have any reason to believe that things will be different.
Especially when you're not Alabama or Georgia or Ohio State. Your roster strength can be cyclical. And when you have a window, you got to take advantage of it. And you had a window going into the season, and you just didn't take advantage of it. It closed before you could even recognize it was fully open.
Much like that last drive.
Yeah, it closed before you even realized what opportunity you had ahead of you. And that's what's another thing that's so frustrating. Like, it'd be one thing if you were coming into the season saying, okay, well, this is a 6-6 roster. Make a bowl and then build for next season, right? So many programs, like even Ole Miss was supposed to be, like they're picked to be 7th in the SEC. A lot of people looked at Ole Miss and said, okay, well, you lost so much on defense last year to guys in the NFL. You lost a wide receiver who was the go-to wide receiver in the SEC last season. You lost a quarterback who was drafted in the first round of the NFL draft. The roster's still good, but maybe 8-4 is the mark. Well, they surpassed that, right? They proved while Lane Kiffin was there that they were a window, a totally open window every year because of how they can flip a roster, right? You haven't proved that you can flip the roster and do this on an annual basis. You had key returners, had it to where you had the key returners, not just that were really good players, but you had them at key positions. You had them at quarterback. You had them at edge rusher. You had them at defensive back. You had one at wide receiver that you thought you could really lean on to be able to exploit the window that was open. And when you go 4-8, yeah, that should rightfully so kind of jar your sense of stability in the program.
Yeah, and you brought up Ole Miss as a great point because they lost a NFL guy. We lost an NFL guy. They had I had a starter that they were projected to come back. Our starter was projected to come back. Our starter came back, played all the year, regressed. But their starter got hurt, and because they evaluated through the transfer portal, they come up with this dude from Ferris State, right?
No relation to Ferris Bueller.
This dude from Ferris State, and he's going to be the one that takes them into the CFP. Our evaluation process led us to a backup quarterback who did not play at all this year.
No.
In fact, was surpassed by a 6-year team glue guy, which is great for Luke, not good for the evaluation process. So when we're talking about evaluating on the transfer portal, if you look through how we did, and I think this is something we can come back to and maybe build a little more time around it, O-line, miss, quarterback, miss, running back, miss. Did not happen. It didn't work, and that cannot be repeated. We don't know what they're going to do to change their process.
Because something has to change.
Something has to change.
Because this is where Darren Usher gets involved in the conversation, too. Because Darren Usher is still your director of player personnel, and it's still a player still a guy on the staff this is his job is figuring out ways to build the roster. His whole job is to make sure you hit on these portal evaluations. He hit on some. I think Justin Okoronkwo, solid player. Really hope he comes back next year. Brandon Cisse is going to be drafted in the NFL draft. I mean, there are some mocks that have him late first, some in mid-second, right? More than likely, that tells me he's at least going to be drafted in the first 2 days of the NFL draft. So he's gone. Sean Murphy came along towards the end of the season. But the ones you really needed on offense to make sure that you were able to win games and be able to score points in the fourth quarter, something that the team just didn't do all year, you didn't get those guys, right? Like, those guys didn't help you out, specifically on the offensive line. So whatever was broken in the process of evaluating potential offensive line targets, you've got to fix this offseason. And that has to improve, or else we're just going to be sitting here this time next year talking about very similar stuff.
Yeah, and we're going into a offseason of uncertainty. Hope that the offensive coordinator is hired, that it's the right one. Hope that the offensive coordinator brings in a system that is conducive to scoring points and, lighten up the scoreboard with a college-style offense. But we don't know. And so until that gets kind of laid down, we're in wait-and-see mode.
And really, if I'm Darren Usher, too, I'm taking into a lot of account what the new offensive coordinator wants to do. Like, you're brought in here to help turn this program around. Whatever type of athlete you need at any position, whatever you prefer is the one we need to identify. And the identification process is as important as anything else, because you can identify a good offensive lineman, but if your offensive coordinator runs something that isn't conducive to their success, you don't even need to start the process of reaching out to them. You have to identify players that are going to mesh well and fit well and be highlighted by whatever offensive system is going to be implemented here in the offseason. So really, when it comes to the importance of the OC hire, it's not just important that you nail it, it's important that you nail it soon, so guys like Darren Usher and guys who are working in the personnel department can get to work in identifying those players.
Because it's Christmas season, Elijah, and a lot of y'all are out there baking, and if I say, hey, I need sugar, you're like, okay, do I need brown sugar? Do I need powdered sugar? Do I need granulated sugar? What do I need? And you're like, oh, yeah, just give me some sugar. It's not going to work.
No.
My cookies are not going to turn out the way I want them to.
That can totally mess up our baking.
It can mess it all up. Don't give me the brown sugar. I need regular sugar.
Identify the sugar that I need for success. Now, one of our most successful segments in this show, Message Board Mayhem, and
my favorite.
We're going to go to TikTok for this one. And this is right in Preston's wheelhouse, and that's next.
Gotcha.
You're in the South.
Gotcha.
You know, sugar being. I-26 westbound before
Now, before we get to message board mayhem, we want to invite our friend Hank onto the show. Hank is on the line right now, the AAA Hegan Air phone lines. Good morning, Hank. Welcome to the early game.
Good morning, fellas. Good morning, Preston, fellow Somerville alum here.
My guy.
Yes. The wave is rolling right now.
Oh yeah. Gonna check them out Saturday. We gonna show up. I tell you, one of the things going into this next year is this. One hope we can have is that Shane hadn't had back-to-back bad years. So he came in, he was kind of down, then he go up, then he went down, he went up, went back down. So hopefully law averages says this is an up year for him. But I agree with y'all with the portal, and I think we have to be. I think I always tell my Gamecock colleagues we have to stop being snobs about the portal. Sometimes I remember when Torricelli Sinkers was coming here, I knew a guy that knew him and said, "Hey, this guy's gonna be a dog," and everybody was more fascinated with the offensive lineman that you got from Florida or from Nebraska or whatever. And just as y'all said in that last segment, the guy that turns out doing it for Lane is a guy from Ferris State.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you got to go out. And I remember some people say the same thing about what can a linebacker from Charlotte do from us. But they were all giddy about the linebacker we got from Ole Miss. So I think the evaluation has got to be you go and you identify the ones that have the speed, the strength, the dog in them that you want, and then you get them together. But and then that's what you put together to bring out the portal. But if you're going to be fair about it, there's a lot of, if you can get that line straight. There are a lot of pieces in other places to build to put a team back on track here, because it's not like we don't have really good defensive players that you can back them up with some solid people. It's just that offensive line has got to be the one where you got to go out of your comfort zone. You got to go out of if you got a bracket price for what you pay linemen, and you get 2 or 3 that can come in and be game changers and a couple behind them, and you gotta sometimes you gotta go out of the norm. It's like betting on that big Bitcoin. You gotta go out of the norm sometimes to make sure it happens. And so that's what I got to say. Go Green Rays.
My God.
Good stuff there from Hank. Yeah, fellow Somerville graduate.
One town, one team.
Big win against Dutch Fork. Congrats, you get to play in the state championship
You get to play
game.
the final boss.
And that is the final boss of South Carolina high school football. Congratulations! Your prize is playing Dutch Fork. They'll be playing on Saturday, so excited about that one.
10 straight trips to the state championship for that program.
Is that good?
I think it's all right.
I still think it's funny. My first year moving here, or first year living here and covering high school football in the state was when Dutch Fork had 5 losses in the regular season. And I'm like, oh, wow, of course, the year I move here is the year the dynasty ends. LOL, JK, guess who ends up winning the state title that season?
And again, I would contend if you got Tom in a quiet room, he'd probably say, that was my favorite year.
Oh, he
probably loved that year.
Tom Knotts probably watches that state championship game on repeat in his house. It stays on a certain TV, in the corner.
We will get to it later, but there's a clip of the Dutch Fork team once they figured out that they was going to the state championship. They're bringing it up, and they're like, and Coach Knotts is like, TK's like, and guys, we're going back to state, and everybody's like, yay.
For some kids, going to the state title game is the best accomplishment that you'll ever have in athletics.
They were like, all right, break it down on 3.
For the kids at Dutch Fork, it's just another year.
Just another game.
That's remarkable. But going back to what Hank said, too, I think, obviously, the OC hire is massive, not just because you need somebody who is a competent, solid play caller who can get your offense in a rhythm, but you need to know what he likes to do in order to get the personnel required to execute what it is he wants to do, because we even saw this year that execution was a big issue with this team. Even if they had plays that they liked, even if they thought the play calling in that building was fine, you just didn't execute well enough, and maybe that was a marriage of bad fit with the scheme that you want to run.
Yeah, and as he said, also to address the idea about the portal evaluations, it is why it's an evaluation. We're not evaluating what jersey they're wearing. We're not evaluating what uniform or what conference they're playing in. We're evaluating the player. And though many people may have been surprised by Torricelli, those that were in the know were like, nah, this dude's
He's
the
a
real
dog.
deal.
Yeah.
However the recruiting process worked out, he just slipped through the cracks, but he's going to be for real. And so there are plenty of people out there like that. It's our job to do our due diligence and go out there and get them.
Yeah.
That being said, let's get to my favorite stuff.
Now, we've been doing message board mayhem all season long, and most of the stuff that we get comes from like Message Board Geniuses, which is an incredible Twitter account. Shout out to them for helping provide us with content. But I want to go to Preston Thorne's favorite app, TikTok, because I was sent this. Shout out Lulu Kesson in a group text.
Thank you, Lulu.
Sent this TikTok video, and if you just watch the video, it's just a yoga instructor dancing, but what's important is the caption on it, and says how life feels when you don't have Lane Kiffin telling you he hates your playlist every morning in hot yoga.
And it's a very key part of this story because as I've been my response to everybody via text, via Twitter, when they're talking about Lane, it's just, he does yoga now. He's a changed man. He's so different because
Changed to my backside.
he does yoga now, Jen. He's a different guy.
Well, to add to it, too, the comments.
That's when it gets good.
This is the gold part. And what's funny is I was talking with Mary about this yesterday. We were talking back and forth. She goes, so is this
instructor? I know that kind of makes me crazy. And I also have an issue if they don't stay on like in rhythm.
Yes.
Going faster than somebody, even if they're doing the moves, they're going faster or not on the beat or that. Yeah.
But stay with the class.
Stay with the class.
And that sounds so much like
I'm making $91 million.
Yeah, I'm Lane Kiffin. Yeah. Last one.
of that is the room is working together, not with that jerk in there.
Nope. Yeah, who knew? Yoga's a team sport too.
I am sure whenever Lane walks into class, somebody's like, "Oh God,
this guy." Some other comment saying he's the guy who comes in 5 minutes late and leaves about 10 minutes early. Lane, get your money's worth, man. This is an economic efficiency thing. This is for you, like financially. This is for you, man.
Remember, Lane does not make decisions based on money.
Well, that would be proof of that, I guess. But other hires were made in the SEC too. We'll give our thoughts and grade them out coming up next. Now, the Lane Kiffin story is what kind of took college football by storm and has kind of defined the entire coaching carousel. Just when you thought that the craziest thing that could happen is James Franklin getting fired a year after he was a play away from playing in the national championship game last year, gets fired midway through the season, record buyouts all across college football. You thought that was the craziest? Well, Lane Kiffin one-upped it. But because of that media circus, other hires can be kind of flying under the radar. Never would I ever think that a Florida coaching hire would go under the radar. But alas, here we are, sitting in early December of 2025, talking about a Florida head coach, a new Florida head coach being the afterthought hire in a coaching cycle. So we will give our grades on some of these others. And honestly, I think most of the teams in the SEC got it right. We can start off with Florida and John Sumrall. I give that an A+.
Yeah, I think this is one of those cases where thankfully you didn't get what you asked for.
Yes.
Because they were in the market for Lane, absolutely. Even, I mean, Scott Strickland said essentially, hey, we were looking after another big name coach, and we got to Sumrall.
CBS did report that yesterday too, that Strickland was one of the first people to make contact with Lane, and there was kind of personality differences between Strickland and Lane that didn't mesh as well as LSU. Yeah, yeah, shocker. Yeah.
But from everything I've read about Sumrall, he looks like he might be the next guy who's ready to break out as far as like a defensive process-oriented guy. Mm-hmm. And, of course, the jokes on the internet is like, hey, you just hired a offensive process-oriented guy who's not going to bring a lot of fire to the press conferences, things of that nature. But I think it's a very competent hire, and I think he has a chance to go on and be a superstar.
What did Steve Spurrier tell John Sumrall at the presser yesterday? Just win a lot.
Win a lot of games.
Win a lot of games. And you know what? Know who's won a lot of games? John Sumrall. Mm-hmm. Here's his entire coaching resume. His first job was 2022 at Troy. They go 12-2. They win the Cure Bowl. The next year, they go 11-2. Then he takes the Tulane job. 9-5 last year with a loss in the Gasparilla Bowl to, you guessed it, Florida. And this year, 10-2, playing in the American Conference Championship game. And if they win, they are presumed to get the original G5 spot in the college football playoff.
You think that was a team crush Tuesday for Scott Strickland? Like, little did I know that when we crossed paths at that Gasparilla Bowl that you was going to be my future head coach.
I mean, he's probably looking back on that now and thinking fondly, you know? It's like, oh.
We did. There was a spark when we shook hands.
There was.
You know what? Who would have thought?
Like when you meet somebody, you start dating somebody, if you knew them like previously, you think about like the times you hung out with them before, and you're like, I didn't realize I liked that much about you until now. Everything. Now my memories are a little brighter. It all makes sense. And it all made sense right there. He's 42-11 overall as a head coach. It was 23-4 at a place like Troy. And that's obviously in the Sun Belt, things can be incredibly cyclical, but a very successful
Just
winner.
doing my numbers here, were we one of the 4 that South Carolina played them when we played Troy? I'm trying to think. Shane Beamer. I'm trying to think what year that was. That was early.
Would that have been 2021?
That might have been. That might have been right before he got there.
Right before he got there.
Okay.
But then Sumrall turned it around immediately. I love that hire for Florida. Now looking at Auburn and Alex Golesh. Again, you laid out earlier that it's a really good story.
Cool story.
Came to America at age 7 from Russia. Is a really good offensive mind. He was Josh Heupel's offensive coordinator at Tennessee. Takes the South Florida job. Honestly, in terms of recruiters, he may be one of the best recruiters out there because he brought some dudes to South Florida. Byron Brown is one of the more exciting quarterbacks to watch. And one of the reasons why South Florida has been so fun this year is because they have one of the more electric quarterbacks. He's a great quarterback developer. He was the quarterbacks coach at Tennessee when Hendon Hooker was there. So he has a track record of developing quarterbacks, running an offensive system similar to what Heupel does, which is a lot of spreading like the field out, having your receivers close to the boundary, having light boxes, running the ball well out of that. I like what his offensive identity is. And while it may not be like the biggest name splashy hire that Auburn would probably prefer, I do like what identity he has as a play caller and an offensive coach.
He's a very strong play caller. And then when you listen to his press conference, threw all that out the window and said, we're going to be the most violent team. You don't
on the field.
You don't on the field. Very, very important distinction. You don't typically hear that from an offensive guy.
No.
Like, we're going to be fast. We're going to be explosive. We're going to be creative. That's what you typically hear. Sign me up for an offensive dude that's like, we're going to be violent on the field, and we're going to be aggressive and all. I think that's a really interesting thing. I almost think Alex Golesh maybe too good for Auburn because those people are wacky.
They are.
And I just hope he doesn't get lost in the craziness that is the Plains.
That they're patient enough to trust that process and appreciate what he brings. Because I think he brings a whole
offensive guy. Let's go get something that's fun. And good for Kentucky fans because you've had to watch Stoops ball for the last whatever years.
Yeah.
And you've had to just live with that slop being put on your plate and having to live with it. Now you're going to get some fine cuisine. You're going to get some cool things happening. So good for them.
A little bit of razzle dazzle.
Yeah.
Good for them.
Yeah, good for you, man. You've had to endure Stoops ball, which I like. You had to endure that for a long time. It's not for everybody. So congratulations to them.
Now, there's only one SEC team that made a hire where I was like, really? That's Arkansas. Because they hired Memphis head coach Ryan Silverfield. And you know what? If we're being completely honest here, I think he's the biggest underachiever of the bunch. Because Memphis as a program has more resources and more care from their community and their town than almost any school in the G5. Every single year, they're in a recruiting hotbed. Memphis produces a lot of really good football talent. They're going to have a recruiting advantage. They will have an NIL and resource advantage.
FedEx.
Yeah, thanks, Fred Smith. Fred Smith has given them a lot of money. They have every advantage in the book, and they're 8-4 this year. They just got dog walked by Navy at home this past week. They lost to a UAB team that fired Trent Dilfer, and they were 23 something point underdogs in that game. They beat Memphis at Memphis. They underachieve with Ryan Silverfield. That's a team that should have been in the college football playoff as the G5 representative. And when you look at just the roster and the talent and the resources, what this tells me is like Hunter Yurachek saw them beat Arkansas and said, I've seen enough. I don't need to see anything else. There's not a splashy identity. There's a level of underachievement that I just don't think is going to carry over into SEC play. And I think Arkansas will be looking for a coach again in 3 years.
Now, I don't know this. What is his background before Memphis?
Now, Ryan Silverfield's background before Memphis, I'm not as familiar with. But if we do a quick little look right here, before he was the head coach at Memphis, he was originally an assistant coach at Memphis, offensive line coach at Memphis, Detroit Lions assistant offensive line coach in 2015. He's been in the Memphis program since 2016.
Okay. All right. Well, I don't have enough information. I just know the folks at Arkansas are not happy.
I would not be happy either. I would not dub that hire as a winner, but we'll give our winners for today's show, brought to you by Golden Spur, coming up next. Golden Spur, our golden winners for today's show. I want to start off, Preston Thorne, with the Sports Center Not Top 10 as my winner because they have their new butt fumble. Now, if you remember, Sports Center used to do the Not Top 10, and they would have you vote on who number one should be the next week. So if you're number one week, you can vote on the next week's number one, and as to who's like the grand not top 10 play, right?
Yeah, like TRL, like you would stay up top.
Yes.
If you didn't get voted out.
And for over a calendar year, the butt fumble stayed up top. No one ever voted that thing down. I think they quit that whole bit and just permanently let the butt fumble be the number one not top 10 play of all time. Well, the butt fumble and Mark Sanchez, who's definitely been in the news for really good and totally positive reasons, is probably dethroned because Younghoe Koo, now kicking for the New York Giants, former Atlanta Falcons legend, was attempting a field goal last night. And if you haven't seen it, you should look it up, but I'll give you a descriptor. He's winding his leg back to kick this field goal. He's swinging his leg forward. But before toe can meet leather on the football, his toe slams into the turf, gets stuck, and the holder has to pick up the ball and just find something to do with it. And the best he could do was lose 10 yards and get tackled. It's the funniest field goal attempt. I can't even call it a missed field goal because the foot never touched the ball.
Yeah, and I was going to say it's a Charlie Brown, but he didn't even get the foot through.
Charlie Brown at least got a full leg swing in.
Yeah, he didn't even get the...
Younghoe Koo's foot got planted into the earth.
Much like when I attempt my horrible golf swings, like just taking up the earth with you.
Taking earth with you. Yeah, that's how I swing a golf club. It's atrocious, and that's one of my favorite things about pro swing is that I can't take out chunks of their ground because it's not actual grass in there. But when I do play golf outdoors, yes, I will chew up a golf course. Younghoe Koo chewed up part of that field last night with his foot. It is one of the funniest things I've ever seen on live television.
And can you imagine how that felt?
Not good. I don't know how he didn't hurt himself on that.
I would have thought he would have jammed something.
Yeah, however it felt physically cannot feel worse than he feels emotionally now.
Like, do you fake, even if you're not hurt, do you kind of go, oh, my leg? Start laying on the ground, oh, I think I dislocated my ankle.
Winners, fake injuries.
Yeah. Not strategic fake injuries, but fake injuries to avoid maximum embarrassment.
Yes. If you've ever been at like a high school track meet, somebody gets walked down and all of a sudden, oh, my hamstring. Or you see somebody gets crossed over on the basketball field, oh, my knee. Because you just feel like we can't laugh at you
if you're
hurt. And so you have to lay off of them. So fake injuries are a great sports topic. I'm giving my winner to Bikram Yoga.
Oh.
One of my favorite forms of exercise. Shout out to Lacey. 60 minutes in a hot room. That room is usually about 95, 105. It's definitely heated in there.
Can't do it.
Great form of exercise. It's awesome community. And then there might be a jerk like Lane Kiffin in there to mess the whole thing up. But normally it's typically not that. I would advise a little bit of Bikram for everybody.
See, I couldn't do that. My tolerance for extreme heat, very little.
Yeah.
Same.
It's pretty hot.
Because I sweat a lot.
Yeah.
And the comments of people complaining about Lane Kiffin pouring water on himself and splashing around. I'd be splashing around too, but it's not because I poured water on myself.
No,
it's
it's
because
just sweat.
my body perspired enough.
You can get very, very sweaty in there
to create a small body of water. Another winner for today, chaos. If the Dark Knight taught you anything, it's some people just want to watch the world burn. And the Duke Blue Devils can be that team that makes the world burn because there is a scenario where the ACC does not have a representative in the college football playoff because Virginia is on the outside looking in because they're 18th in the college football playoff rankings right now. Without an ACC title win, they're not getting in. And the auto bids, I guess if you can call that air quotes, are reserved for the 5 highest ranked conference champions. So if 7-5 Duke beats Virginia on Saturday in Charlotte and James Madison wins the Sun Belt like I expect them to by a lot of points, and no matter who wins North Texas and Tulane in that conference title game, then there's a really good chance that the American Conference title winner and James Madison are both picked ahead of Duke resume-wise, especially if Tulane wins. You know why, Preston Thorne? Tulane beat Duke earlier this year. They have a head-to-head in that matchup. There's a good chance if Duke wins, we will reach maximum chaos because the ACC will be squeezed out of a 12-team college football playoff.
There's also the idea that the CFP could say, like, yeah, head-to-head matters here, but it doesn't matter here.
You know how insulting that would be if it comes down to Tulane and Duke, and they pick Duke. We're going to see what the committee's made of if that ends up happening. I guarantee you the committee's sitting in there hoping and praying Virginia wins so they don't have to make that decision. That would be a tough decision. Tough decisions sometimes can be winners, sometimes can be losers, but Tyler had Jack Velcher in the extra point. They're winners, and they're next.